Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive into some legendary lake monsters.
Always up for a good monster mystery.
We've got a double feature today. Cadborosaurus and the Loch Ness Monster.
Caddy and Nessie. Two of the biggest names in the cryptid world for sure.
Exactly. But we're going beyond just, monster movie stuff today.
Right, going deeper than just spooky stories and blurry photos.
Exactly. It's about, what makes these creatures stick around in our minds,
Their cultural impact. How they make us question what we think we know.
Yeah. The science, the history, the whole shebang.
All of it. And when you look at those core stories, those descriptions, you kind of start to see why they've got such a grip on us.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Caddy, our Pacific Northwest pal, serpentine, horse-like head.
Classic sea serpent vibes.
Right. And then Nessie, over in Scotland, the long neck, humps, the whole deal.
And their homes. You can't separate the monster from the place.
Totally. It's like the location itself is part of the mystery.
Loch Ness. 23 miles long, deep, like seriously deep.
I've seen the pictures. That water's dark.
Oh, absolutely. And those Scottish Highlands, all misty, rugged. It's prime monster territory.
You're making me want to book a trip. But spooky as Loch Ness is, Caddy's Pacific Northwest isn't exactly sunshine and rainbows either.
Oh, no. You've got those deep, cold waters, those thick kelp forests. It's like something out of what's that movie?
You mean like the Meg?
Yeah, The Meg, exactly. You just know something huge could be down there.
And it's not just the looks of these places. We're talking centuries of stories feeding into this.
Oh, for sure. Nessie, for example. We've got tales going back to the 6th century.
6th century? Really?
Yeah. St. Columba and the Loch Ness Beast, it's like the OG Nessie encounter.
Wow. So centuries of stories, building up, adding to the mystery.
It's like a cultural echo chamber, amplifying those beliefs. And then you add in modern sightings.
Which, come on, people are still seeing these things.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just isolated incidents either. There are patterns, commonalities in the descriptions, like they're tapping into something real, or at least a shared belief.
Okay, so if Nessie's got the 6th century covered, what about Caddy? Where does that legend come from?
Deep roots. Think Native American folklore all along the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, I'm picturing like totem poles, those big carvings.
Exactly. Serpent-like creatures, representing the ocean's power, its mystery.
So even back then, it was like, hey, don't mess with the water. There's stuff down there.
Exactly. Respect the power of nature. And that reverence, it's carried through to the modern sightings, for sure.
So these aren't just random people seeing things. It's like they're drawing on those older beliefs.
Precisely. It's fascinating how these things intertwine. But what's really interesting is how both Nessie and Caddy, they kind of blew up in the 20th century.
Oh, yeah, like they went mainstream monster.
Exactly. For Nessie, it was 1933. A couple see something crossing the road near the loch.
I remember reading about that. Caused a total frenzy, right?
Yeah. Oh, huge. Newspapers, photos, everyone's suddenly Nessie obsessed.
It's like the world needed a good mystery. Maybe it was just the right story at the right time.
Could be. The world was changing rapidly back then. A good monster story. It's a nice distraction.
A little escapism. And Caddy wasn't far behind, right? It had its own surge in popularity.
Oh, yeah. All through the 20th century. Sightings everywhere. Kids on the beach, fishermen, you name it.
So we're talking lots of eyewitnesses. But I gotta ask, how much can we really trust those accounts?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Eyewitness testimony. It's tricky.
Especially with something like this, right? It's not like seeing a lost dog.
No, exactly. You're out on the water, maybe the fog's rolling in, the light's playing tricks. Your mind can fill in the gaps.
You're already expecting to see something strange, especially if you've grown up with those stories.
And the descriptions, they don't always match up. Nessie, it's everything from a big, undefined shape to a full-blown dinosaur.
So one person sees a log, the next sees a plesiosaur.
Right. And Caddy's no different. Multiple humps, horse-like head. It's all over the place.
It's like a giant game of telephone. The story keeps changing as it gets passed along.
Except it's more like the story changes depending on who's telling it and what they're expecting to see.
Okay, so we've got excited people, maybe a little scared, seeing things that might not be there.
It's a recipe for, how do I put this? Creative interpretation.
Like our brains are wired to find patterns, even if there aren't any.
We like to make sense of things, even when they don't make sense. And sometimes that means seeing a monster where there's just, well, waves.
Okay, so How do we sort through all this? I mean, how do we even begin to figure out what's real and what's not?
Oh, that's where things get really interesting, and that's what we'll be getting into next time.
It's wild, right? How Caddy and Nessie, they're not just like local legends anymore.
Oh, they've gone global.
Yeah.
Superstars of the cryptid world.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Books, movies, documentaries, even T-shirts.
Nessie's face is on everything. It's like she's the, what's that word?
The mascot.
Yeah, the mascot of Scotland. Or at least of Loch Ness tourism.
For sure. And it's not just that one photo either, right? I mean, we've got all those documentaries too.
Tons. And books. Legends of Loch Ness went deep on the history, the cultural impact.
Legends of Loch Ness. Okay, I'll have to check that out. And, Caddy gets some love too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Cryptids of the Coast is like the Caddy Bible.
Yeah.
And there was that documentary, The Beast of Cadborosaurus.
Right, right. Lots of eyewitness accounts in that one, if I remember correctly.
Oh, for sure. It's amazing how these creatures, they capture our imaginations,
It's like they tap into something primal, like a fear of the unknown.
Totally. But also, like, a fascination with it. Like, we want to believe there's still mystery out there.
Right. It's like in a world that feels so, I don't know, it explained Nessie and Caddy. They represent something that we haven't figured out yet.
Exactly. And those stories, they evolve, too. Like, early Nessie depictions, she was this terrifying monster.
Yeah, like straight out of a nightmare.
But now it's more playful, even cute sometimes. Like the Nessie on Tour book, it had cartoons.
She's become like a friendly monster.
Right. And that plays into the whole tourism thing, too.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget that.
Mhm.
Nessie's a huge part of the Scottish economy.
Huge. People flock to Loch Ness, hoping to catch a glimpse, buy souvenirs.
And Caddy's got a similar draw in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, yeah, totally. People love a good monster mystery. But it makes you think about the responsibility.
Right, like we're talking about real places, real ecosystem.
Exactly. We can't let the hunt for a monster damage the environment.
So how do we balance that? Like the excitement of the search with the need to be careful.
Well, Legends of Loch Ness and Cryptids of the Coast, they both touch on that.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
they're not just like monster hype machines.
No. They talk about responsible tourism, sustainable research practices.
Like working with local communities, making sure the environment is protected.
Exactly. It's not just about finding the creature. It's about understanding the whole picture.
The ecosystem, the culture, the history, it's all connected.
Right. And, speaking of history, those books, they really dig into the deep roots of these legends.
Oh, yeah. Like going beyond just the modern sightings.
Way beyond. Like for Caddy, Cryptids of the Coast talks about how integral those beliefs are to indigenous cultures.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, they've been living along those coasts for centuries. They know the waters.
Exactly. It's not just about, like, a scary monster. It's about their relationship with the ocean, its power.
And I bet Legends of Loch Ness has some cool historical stuff too, right?
Oh, for sure. It talks about how Nessie, back in the day, she was more of a warning.
Like stay out of the loch or else.
Exactly. A cautionary tale about the dangers lurking beneath the surface.
So these creatures, they weren't just like fun stories. They were connected to people's lives, their beliefs.
Well, yeah. They reflected their understanding of the world, their respect for nature,
And those beliefs, they stick with us, don't they? Like even today, they shape how we see things.
It's like those old stories, they lay the groundwork for how we interpret the unknown.
So even if we never get a clear photo of Nessie, the idea of Nessie, it's already shaped by those centuries of stories.
It's fascinating. But it's not just about the old days. Science has come a long way, too.
Right. We've got sonar, underwater cameras, all that cool tech now.
Drones. They're using drones to scan Loch Ness. It's like high-tech monster hunting.
And don't forget DNA. They're analyzing water samples, looking for traces of, well, who knows what.
It's crazy. Like, we could find evidence of something totally new without ever seeing it.
Science fiction stuff. But, for all the fancy tech, Legends of Loch Ness and Cryptids of the Coast, they both talk about how important the human element is.
Oh, yeah. Like, you can't just rely on gadgets. You need people, their experiences.
Talking to locals, hearing their stories, understanding the cultural context.
Exactly. It's like science and folklore. They need to work together to solve this mystery.
Which, speaking of folklore, we got to talk about how Caddy and Nessie, they've taken over pop culture.
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere. Movies, books, art, you name it, they've become icons.
And those depictions, they tell us a lot about how we view these creatures,
Absolutely. Like, sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's Like romantic even?
Like Nessie as this beautiful, misunderstood creature.
Right. But we got to be careful, too, with how those portrayals influence us.
Like they can set up expectations, make us see things that aren't really there.
Like the surgeon's photo of Nessie. That was a hoax, but people believed it for years.
It's like we want to believe so badly that we kind of trick ourselves.
We see what we want to see. But that's part of the fun, too, right? The mystery, the speculation.
Totally. It's like we need a little bit of the unknown in our lives.
Keeps things interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a balancing act, between that wonder and critical thinking.
Right. Like keeping an open mind, but not just believing everything you hear.
Exactly. That's what makes Caddy and Nessie so fascinating. They make us question, explore, stay curious.
And it's not just about the monsters themselves. It's about what they represent.
The mysteries of the natural world. The power of storytelling. It's bigger than just a creature in a lake.
It's about how we as humans connect with the world around us, the known and the unknown. It's like we've been saying all along, the creatures, the stories, the environment, even us trying to make sense of it all, it's all one big tangled up knot.
A beautiful knot, though, full of intrigue. And that makes me wonder about, well, what's next for these legends? How do we keep searching for Caddy and Nessie in a way that honors everything we've talked about?
Well, for Caddy at least, Cryptids of the Coast had some ideas about that.
Oh, yeah. What were they thinking?
It was a lot about taking a more, I guess you could say, holistic approach.
Yeah.
Like, not just focusing on the creature itself, but the whole context.
Okay, so not just running around with nets trying to catch Caddy.
Right. More like understanding her role in the ecosystem, learning from the indigenous communities who've lived alongside her for, well, forever.
Respecting the history, the culture, and the environment all at the same time.
Exactly. And Legends of Loch Ness had a similar vibe for Nessie, too.
Like, working with the loch, not just trying to conquer it.
Yeah. You talked about bringing in all sorts of experts, not just cryptozoologists.
Oh, so like marine biologists, historians, even the folks who live around the loch.
Everyone. Getting all those perspectives. Because who knows, maybe the answer's been right there in front of us the whole time.
Maybe we just haven't been asking the right questions or haven't been listening to the right people. But okay, let's say we do keep searching, right? What does that even look like in the future?
Ooh, good question. What about like those underwater drones? The ones that can go super deep.
Oh, for sure. Those would be amazing for exploring parts of the loch or the ocean that we've never seen before.
And sonar.
Oh,
I bet we could map out those depths in crazy detail now.
absolutely. And imagine like AI, artificial intelligence, sifting through all that data.
Finding patterns, anomalies, things we might miss with just our human eyes.
Whoa. Now we're talking like next level monster hunting. It's getting
Yeah.
futuristic.
But even if we never get that perfect Nessie photo or that Caddy capture,
Even if they stay elusive.
the search itself, it's valuable.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries of science. It's making us think differently about the world.
It's keeping that sense of wonder alive. So, as we wrap up our deep dive here, what do you want our listener to walk away with today?
Maybe just a little reminder that there's still so much out there that we don't know.
Like, the world's still full of mysteries, even in the age of smartphones and Google.
Exactly. There's still magic to be found, especially in those places we haven't fully explored.
The deep oceans, the murky lochs, it's like there's a whole other world down there just waiting to be discovered.
And who knows, maybe Caddy and Nessie are just the tip of the iceberg, Maybe there's even more out there.
Right, like stuff we haven't even imagined yet. So listener, as you go about your day, think about this. What if these creatures are real?
What would that mean for us? How would it change our understanding of life on Earth?
It's a big question. But hey, sometimes the best questions are the ones without easy answers.
Exactly. So keep that curiosity alive, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Because who knows what amazing things you might discover.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one to finally solve the mystery of Caddy and Nessie.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.